colors. I think you also see their true colors in these WikiLeaks emails where they're going out making fun of Christians, making fun of evangelicals, making fun of needy Latinos. When Donna Brazile is giving debate questions to Hillary ahead of time. I mean, George, you know us for a long time. Could you imagine what would happen if my father got the debate questions?
Meanwhile, new leaked documents show the Clinton campaign back in February debating whether she should give a speech on race to help shore up black voters for her and not for Bernie Sanders. According to her top speechwriter, Dan Schwerin, one advisor was concerned about such a speech, writing, quote, "It's possible that we would unintentionally end up elevating questions that aren't yet being widely asked and introduce new damaging information, especially super predator, to a lot more voters." Super predator is the term then First Lady Hillary Clinton used in 1996 to describe gangs. Many African Americans consider it offensive, and she has apologized since then for using the term. Clinton did not end up giving a race speech during the primary. Eric?
All right, Molly, and WikiLeaks had a tweet warning that Senator Tim Kaine, they may have a surprise for him, so we'll see if they have even more of these emails this week. Thank you.
Well, there is growing outrage concerning payments made to members of our armed forces, including now a top-ranking congressman. The Pentagon is ordering about 10,000 National Guard soldiers from California to pay back their enlistment bonuses, saying an audit reveals they were overpaid. The money was meant to encourage enlistment during the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan more than 10 years ago. If the soldiers refuse, they could risk being fined or taxed even more. Well, now House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy of California calling this, quote, disgraceful, adding our military heroes should not shoulder the burden of military recruiters' fault from over a decade ago. Rather, we are the ones who owe a debt for the great sacrifices our heroes have made, some of whom unfortunately paid the ultimate sacrifice. And we're going to ask General Jack Keane, a former Army Vice Chief of Staff, for his thoughts on this controversy later in the broadcast.
And taking a break from politics for a very second. Did you see that game last night? Man, oh man, oh man. The Cubbies, what an historic win for them. The curse of the Billy Goat appears finally to be vanquished. 1945 in the celebration down at the Billy Goat Tavern. Certainly going on right now. Matt Finn live at Wrigley in Chicago. Of course, Sam Sianis, 1945, takes a goat, and then they kick the goat out, and that's the curse of the Billy Goat because he said that the Cubs ain't going to win anymore. That's proven wrong. Matt.
Yeah, well, Eric, fans have their fingers crossed that that curse finally comes to an end this year. I mean, today is the day that some Chicago Cubs fans have been waiting an entire lifetime for. They are able to walk the streets here in Wrigleyville, look up at Wrigley Field and say, we are going to the World Series. The atmosphere here today really feels like a game day. There has just been a sea of fans decked out in their red and blue. The bars have been busy with day 2 of celebrations, nonstop traffic, and some fans tell us they rushed down here to get their hands on some gear that already says the postseason and the World Series on it. We ran into Jamie. Jamie says she's a diehard fan, and that the win reminds you of watching the Cubs with your grandfather.
That's absolutely right. When I was a young girl, he would have the game on, and I would sit there with him and watch. And it gets emotional just knowing that they've won and they're going, and we've just been waiting and waiting and waiting for so long, and our day is here, and it's not indescribable, the emotions that come to the surface.
Thank you very much, Jamie.
Thank you.
Well, looking ahead, the Cubs travel to Cleveland. The World Series begins Tuesday here on Fox, and then the Cubs are scheduled to return here on Friday to play their first World Series game here at Wrigley Field in 71 years. Eric?
Yeah, and you know, Matt, even the president tweeted out, holy cow, even this White Sox fan is happy to see Wrigley rocking. So congratulations to the Cubs. This sets them up with the match against the Cleveland Indians. That'll be some World Series. Matt, thank you. Let's go down to Charlotte, North Carolina, UNC. That's where Hillary Clinton has just begun to hold an early voting event. Let's listen to Mrs. Clinton during her speech.
Candidate for Lieutenant Governor. And to all of the other participants in the program today, there are 16 days left before the most important election of our lives. Are you ready? Well, as Thurston said, and as the provost told me, you're going to be able to vote right here on campus starting on Thursday. And I am excited because I'm seeing lots of energy and enthusiasm here in North Carolina. I was in Durham and Raleigh earlier today and had a chance to speak to a large group of people, go to an early voting site, which was mobbed. There were so many people waiting to vote, and what that says to me is that North Carolinians really do know what's at stake in this election. I'm going to do everything I can, and I hope you will as well, to elect Roy Cooper your next governor. You will not find a more dedicated fighter for North Carolina kids and families. He has fought to improve the schools here. He has helped kids get health coverage. He has worked to make communities safer and protect citizens from fraud. And he has real plans to create good-paying jobs and protect the environment. He'll move this state forward. He'll stand up for voting rights for young people, people of color, people with disabilities, the elderly. He will stand up for women's health and Planned Parenthood. And he will repeal HB 2. He knows that it's not only wrong, it is bad for business. North Carolina deserves a governor who will put the people of North Carolina first, not some kind of ideological agenda that goes against the interests of the people here. And I also hope you're going to send Deborah Ross to the United States Senate. Deborah has spent her career working to open up opportunities for people, no matter who you are, what you look like, who you love. She wants every child in this state to have the same chance she did, to go to great public schools with wonderful teachers. And she believes, like I do, that the economy should work for everyone, not just those at the top. And she'll help break through the gridlock and create more jobs with rising wages that are going to make a real difference to you, particularly to young people who are finishing up your education and looking for those opportunities you deserve. And this is important when choosing your next senator. Unlike her opponent, Deborah has never been afraid to stand up to Donald Trump, because she knows he's wrong for North Carolina, wrong for America, and people of courage and principle of both parties have stood up to reject his dangerous, divisive agenda. So please do the right thing and elect Deborah Ross to go to the United States Senate. Now, did any of you see the last debate? You know, I got to tell you, I have now stood next to Donald Trump for 4.5 hours in 3 debates.
Well, as you can see, Mrs. Clinton sounding a theme of the Democrats, trying to affect those down-ballot races, because the Democrats hope to flip the Senate from Republican control. They only need 4 seats to do that. 30 seats in the House, that's a much harder order. But clearly, Mrs. Clinton in North Carolina, where the Real Clear Politics average shows her leading by 2.8%, but it's still fairly close as the campaign continues. Arthel?
Yeah, well, Donald Trump is hot on the campaign trail today as well. In fact, he's at a rally at the Collier County Fairgrounds in Naples, Florida, a must-win state for Mr. Trump. Let's listen in.
We'll build the wall. Don't worry. We'll build the wall. We'll build the wall. I have one guy down here, he loves his wall, I'll tell you. Can't be a bad guy. That's because he's a great American. He gets it. Do you see all those women for Trump signs, Carl? Do you see that? Look, Carl. Hillary's pledge for open borders includes an open border with the Middle East, meaning generations of radicalism and terrorism spreading and growing within your communities and near your families. A new WikiLeaks email shows John Podesta secretly worried about the fact that Hillary Clinton never and you see this, she never proceeds correctly. I mean, what he's saying about her, he's got to be fired. He's got to be fired. He talks about the San Bernardino problem. We have to keep these people out. And if we don't, we're not going to have a country anymore, or we're going to have a very sick country. We're letting in some of the worst people. We are letting into our country people we don't know who they are. Radical Islamic terrorists right through our front door and stamping their visas approved on the way in. So let me state this very clearly. If I'm elected president, I'm going to keep radical Islamic terrorists the hell out of our country. We will also stop the crisis of illegal immigration. A Trump administration will secure and defend our borders. And yes, we will, for you, build the wall. Yes, sir. We have the first ever endorsement from our ICE and Border Patrol officers. 16,500 Border Patrol. In August, first time they've ever done it. In August, police arrested a serial illegal immigrant rapist who had been deported 5 times and who'd been convicted of 3 DUIs. His victims include one 68-year-old woman with a cane who took his offer to drive her home, and then he left her beaten horribly, beaten so badly, on the side of the road. A 64-year-old Air Force veteran, Marilyn Ferris, was raped and beaten to death with a hammer by a repeat offender, criminal illegal immigrant, who should have been deported by the Obama administration many times, but they never got around to do it. Under a Trump administration, this crime wave will come to a very, very crashing end. That includes the proposal in my contract for tough, mandatory minimum prison sentences for illegal immigrants who re-enter the country after a previous deportation. Right now, they're deported, they come back. They're beat over and over again. They're beat. You look at Kate Steinle, you look at so many, hundreds and thousands. You look at what's going on. They're deported, they come back. They're deported, they come back. Well, when they come back that second time, they're going to jail for a long time.
All right, there is Donald Trump in Naples, Florida, before a very enthusiastic crowd there, making sure to point out that there were many women for Trump signs in the crowd as well. And as we know, the presidential candidates, as you see, you just saw Hillary Clinton in Charlotte, North Carolina. So the presidential candidates are making a major push in swing states today. The Trump team saying that's where their path to victory lies, while the Clinton campaign is getting a little more aggressive, working on flipping red states to blue. Their campaign managers, by the way, also out working today. Take a look.
We're just starting to increase some of our investments on the air, and you'll see Mr. Trump there. So the fact that it's been 3 points, 4 points, 6 points is what can turn around in these next 2 weeks. Our path is Florida, Ohio, Iowa, North Carolina.
The reason that we've gone into Arizona is that it has come into play. Donald Trump's divisive rhetoric, the shameful things he said about POWs and specifically about John McCain have put that state into play. We think we can win it, so we're doing everything we can. There are important Senate and governor's races in Indiana and Missouri, as you mentioned. So we have put in some resources to help there.
Okay, meanwhile,